How's it going, everyone? Welcome to the first ever episode of the State of the ASUnion podcast, the first official podcast of Binghamton University's Asian Student Union. My name is Timothy An, niche internet micro-celebrity and multimedia chair for the ASU. And joining me as our first ever guest is the one and only Nortee Panpinyo, senior advisor, Thai Student Union president and founder, and one of the grandpas of the ASU.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Nortee. I'm, again, one of the senior advisors. I also held positions in the past such as president and events coordinator, and it's nice being with you.
Thank you again for joining us. Again, this is the first ever episode of the podcast, so it's great to have somewhat of a legend of the ASU community here with us, such as Nortee. And before we start, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Mike Messina, founder of the podcast Inside Outlook, and also former ASU president, for helping me start this podcast. He's given me lots of great advice and encouragement, so if you're watching, Mike, I appreciate all the help. Also, we will be joined very shortly by Jun Han Song, who's one of the ASU interns. He said he's running a bit late, but he promised he'll be here soon, so we can look forward to his presence as well. Before we start, though, why don't we do a quick word from our sponsors? So I don't know if you knew this, Nortee, but we had some very great fortune with this. We got a generous sponsor to kind of give us some funding and some help with this podcast. So I'd like to introduce the sponsor of the first ever ASU podcast, bread. So you all love eating it. You all love stacking it. You may have seen it from such great places as sandwiches, hot dogs, and other places. So thank you very much to our generous sponsor, bread.
Yeah.
All right, moving on. Our next sponsor is Tommy Lamau Video Productions for letting us use some of their equipment. So they've been such a great sponsor, and big shout outs to them for sure. Now that we got that out of the way, Nortee, how are you doing on this fine Tuesday evening?
Oh, I'm doing good. And today I just went to some events from the subgroups, and it's looking like a busy but yet fun day.
Yeah, love to see that for sure. All right, I guess with that, we'll just jump into some general questions. These are things either I thought up or some people have suggested I should ask, and I think they make for some pretty interesting topics, but I guess that remains to be seen. So our first question to Nortee is, what is the one thing people misunderstand about you the most?
Ooh, that's a good question. And I would say the one thing people misunderstand about me is that I'm not always like super extroverted, kind of talking to everyone. A lot of people know me as, either former ASU pres or nowadays grandpa. Someone called me ancient mega tank the other day. And I think that, in my own time, my personal time, I'm very introverted. I don't really talk to too many people. So yeah, I think that's the biggest misunderstanding.
That's very interesting, yeah, for sure. Because, I know you're so well connected within the ASU community, but, to think that you aren't so I guess naturally kind of extroverted like that, it's definitely comes as a surprise to me for sure. What is the most valuable thing you'd say you've learned from all of your years of experience within the ASU community?
Yeah, so I think the most valuable thing I've learned is that the experience and advice from senior advisors is just as great as the input from interns. So every year we get freshmen and we also have seniors that are about to leave. And hearing from both of them gives you a comprehensive understanding of what an organization is like, whether that's ASU or any other org.
So building off that, what would you say is one really valuable piece of advice you gain from an intern? And then what is one really valuable piece of advice you gain from a senior?
Yeah, so for an intern, I think they have the freshest set of eyes. So you can ask an intern, what do they think about their organization? Do they feel welcomed? Is there anything they think that they can do better or think the org can do better? Then from an intern or from a senior advisor perspective, I think that you can ask them, how do you think the org has changed over the years? And what do you think you want for the next generation of students here? So those are the insightful questions you would ask, and we would get that feedback and use it to improve our orgs.
That sounds really solid. Yeah, a lot of people really kind of just think that the people who have been within ASU the most, they're obviously going to have the most valuable experience, which I think that's true, but I think there's a lot to be said about how interns or first years, they having a fresh kind of new experience that's definitely challenges some of the things that have been established. I think that's really good for the ASU as well. All right, moving on then. In as much detail as you care to go into, describe your childhood and how it has shaped Nortee Panpinyo into the person that they are now.
Ooh, so for my childhood, I grew up as an only child. I grew up in Manhattan, so around Harlem, and I went to elementary school there. And from then on, middle school, high school, kind of stayed in school within Manhattan, but moving down down the borough. But also we moved to Brooklyn. So the whole time I felt very connected with whatever community I was in. But also at the same time, I realized that I was very different from a lot of the communities I talked to. So it's similar here at Binghamton. I feel that I am very connected with the communities that I get to work with and try to help. But at the same time, not a lot of people know my personal identity, and which is why this thing is great. You know, we get to talk about it here. But I'm also Thai, and that has really helped me kind of find an individual side of me. And I started an organization here, you know,
Plug it right now.
Thai Student Organization. So that's a great plug. It's something I dreamed to do, but I was so busy with ASU that I never got to really pursue my own interests. And finally getting to create that was kind of the culmination of my 4 years and also past years before college. Yeah.
Yeah, big shout out to Nortee and TSO. You know, they've been putting on some really great events. Be sure to check them out just whenever you can. What's the Instagram at?
The Instagram is Binghamton TSO.
All right, very nice. So I guess building off on that about the kind of like your Thai background, what is one thing you'd want people to understand that maybe they don't, or at least most people don't, about Thai culture?
Yeah, so Thailand itself sits in a very unique position, right? It sits in the middle of Asia, or East Asia.
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of Thai culture is derived from South Asian cultures, as well as Southeast, as well as East Asian. So you get a kind of a mix of everything. And I think that puts me in a unique spot to kind of understand different cultures, whether that's, you know, Chinese culture, which is similar to Northern Thai culture, or West Asian or West Thai culture, which is similar to South Asian cultures. So I get a kind of already a cheat code, a comprehensive code of what is going on within other cultures as well.
Yeah, for sure. You know, I think a lot of people, I mean, I want to say like more ignorant people, but I'm like kind of generally, most people really associate Asia with like basically three countries. It's China, it's Japan, it's Korea. Not a lot of people really know about the kind of nuances about like all the different cultures and all the different kind of countries in there. So I think what you're doing with TSO is great, and how you're like kind of spreading, you know, knowledge about that and kind of spreading the culture. I think that's, you know, it's really, really super what you're doing there. So within ASU, right? Could you describe kind of your experiences with it, and I guess how it's changed throughout the years? You know, I'm sure, Nortee, you've been in ASU since your freshman year, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I imagine that has been quite what it was back then. I'm sure is very much different to how it is now. So I guess if you could go into a little detail about that, like how it's changed, and then how your experiences with them kind of impacted you as a person.
Yeah. So when I first came here in my freshman year, I kind of joined ASU because I kind of just wanted to throw myself into something. But when I came in, I realized that a lot of the people already knew each other. And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I was kind of like an outcast in ASU. So how I found comfort was going to all of the subgroup events alone in hopes of finding other people like me.
Yeah.
Right? Other people who didn't really have friends coming into it and kind of wanted to find a place to call home. Mm-hmm. And what I realized from seeing all of that was that all these separate organizations were so far from each other. They were so not connected. Considering that, you know, ASU is supposed to represent a umbrella organization where everyone's supposed to be very connected, and, you know, how it is now is everyone is very close, and you can kind of see cross bondings, cross events. But back then is very different, where kind of the subtleties of e-board drama, as well as just other traditions that kind of have been erased now, negatively impacted those organizations. Mm-hmm. So personally, as an intern, it was rough to kind of try to figure out what I can do personally to help all these organizations. So coming into my sophomore year, I was able to take on a leadership role as an events coordinator for ASU. Mm-hmm. And through that, you're allowed a unique position, right? You're allowed to actually talk to different people from different orgs and try to collaborate with them. And through that, I think that's when I first established my major connections within the ASU community, and even outside of that. I realized the importance of Greek life. I realized that, you know, there's a lot of Greek influence coming into ASU, but also a lot of ASU influence going into Greek. Mm-hmm. So kind of finding a balance between that and transitioning that into, good work for both communities is something I really thought about. And finally, last year I became ASU president.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
I think I drew a lot of inspiration from Mike Messina. He was the former president before me. And I would say Mike's real thing was he tried to bring a lot of bigger issues into the ASU sphere. But at the time, it's very hard because everyone's disconnected.
Yeah.
So I think my own forte was kind of trying to bring those people together. And throughout that time, throughout president, even though we got hit with COVID, we really established a structure in order to bring people together. And that's why we're here now, I think. I think that we get so many people that are kind of all over the place now because, of a lot of kids' dreams back then to connect with someone else, to not just go to their friends, but find some new people as well. And yeah, that's the story of my time in ASU, basically.
Yeah, no, I've heard stories about how the ASU right now it's so different from how it was like a few years ago. A lot of the subgroups, they'd kind of rarely interact, or when they did, it wasn't even like, it was like hostile almost. So yeah, I mean, I guess it kind of goes to show you've done some pretty great work so far, because all the subgroups right now, we're all very connected, and everyone gets along very well. And I think that's a great thing for the ASU and I guess the Binghamton Asian community as a whole.
Yeah, I would also highlight a lot of great leaders from the past as well. Mm-hmm. There's so many. I can't say I did all myself.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
There's a lot of great people that we lose every year.
Yeah.
Just due to them graduating.
Mm-hmm.
But something Mike told me was that even though we're here for 4 years, right, the average college student, we can leave behind a great impact.
Yeah.
And it's nice to see. I am lucky to see the fruits of my labor. Mm-hmm. But I'm sure there's so many other people that weren't able to see it fully, but it's happening now. And this podcast is great because we can relay that information to them.
Going back into the idea of past ASU, right? So it's definitely been a lot different. Certainly it has its negatives as compared to now. But what was one thing that you'd say you'd like to bring back from past ASU years?
Yeah. So in the past, story time.
Yeah,
I guess.
Let's hear it.
So,
Grandpa Nortee with the story. Let's do it.
In my intern year, my intern class, we brought up something called intern rights. We joked about how seniority was, held in such high regard, and we couldn't really do anything. And whenever we had bondings or anything, we'd get killed, and we couldn't really say anything about it.
For sure.
But we really advocated for intern rights as a joke at first, because we were like, oh, if we really advocated for it, we'd die.
For sure.
But over the years, I think the intern rights movement actually became something that was feasible for every year. I think every year people got more lenient with how they treat their interns and ask for intern inputs. And nowadays, I think we've created a culture where interns actually speak up during meetings. Before it'd be awkward if an intern spoke up on their ideas during a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
But we give them their own section now and everything. And I think that, that change has been good, but also at the same time, when interns don't also give the seniority aspect to a lot of the seniors, there is a bit of a disconnect, because I think what a lot of seniors, including me, I think is that there should be a level of respect, right? And it's similar to professionality.
Absolutely. With
the older generation, and giving that respect is something that of course you should earn, but at the same time, it's like taking care of the elderly. we're old, and we might be old-fashioned, old-traditioned, but there's certain things that hopefully if we try to tell the kids something, that they'll listen and they'll respect our opinions.
Yeah, it's funny. I think like part of Asian culture, a big thing is like respect for elders and stuff like that, which is something these damn kids these days they just don't get, do they? I don't really know if I can call myself an elder. This is my first year in ASU, although I am a junior. But I totally get what you're saying, and I think it's great that I think we've reached a pretty good kind of balance between like listen to new perspectives of the interns, but also them kind of learning from people who've been here for a while, and they've been through a lot. They got a lot of experience, so I think that's really great. Going back to TSO though. Nortee, you're the acting president. So what's your vision for TSO as like an organization? Where do you see the club going in the near and distant future?
Ooh, yeah. So for TSO, I was really thinking that this is a place to bring out Thai culture to the community. It's something that we really haven't seen here at Binghamton. Most people know Thai food, and that's probably going to be the introduction point for a lot of people when we start doing bigger events, we'll start doing a lot of fundraisers for people to learn about, what other Thai foods are there other than, ordering pad Thai or getting Thai iced tea. There's a lot of good Thai food out there, and there's a reason that it's become so popular in America, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So all of that history is something that we're trying to teach, as well as also bring in some larger cultural events. We have Thai New Year's, which is called Songkran, and that's something that I really want to bring here as a big banquet. So all of that is within the vision of TSO. TSO should exist kind of a little bit outside the ASU sphere for now, and then introduce itself in a big bang. Yeah. So I hope everyone here that's listening is ready for that.
Do you see TSO as potentially a new subgroup for the ASU?
Ooh, I'm not sure, really, because I don't know if a lot of people listening really understand, but there's a lot of pros and cons to being in ASU. And as a former ASU president, I can say that because, joining ASU means that you're granted this large, vast network of communities. You have connections to all these subgroups. But at the same time, all of your budget is controlled by one single organization, which is ASU, which is us. Yeah. So, there are very good pros to being a part of ASU, but there's also cons in that, finding your own independence and kind of limiting yourself to being at the subgroup or ASU level, you could do more. You could do more if you wanted. And I think, for me personally, I think that's up to the future generations. In TSO, what do they want to do, right? What do the younger generations want to do? If they want to do it, they can do it. But yeah, that's what I think, at least.
Yeah. Well, whatever you say about ASU, I mean, it's hard to argue that anyone has, any more experience than you do. So I think that's really something to think about for sure. How about this now? So where do you see yourself, Nortee, in 5 years? I know you're planning on doing grad school after this. And then remind me, it's industrial
and systems engineering.
Systems engineering, that's right. But yeah, after you graduate and then you moved on to the workplace, ideally, where would you see yourself?
Ooh. And to be fair, I don't really know. I don't really know where I'm going to end up. Yeah. But I do know this. I chose my major, industrial and systems engineering, because I wanted to work with people. Yeah. And I am fine with working with people from any area of life, from anywhere in the world. So I would like to get into the transportation field. Hopefully you'll see me flying around here and there, from Binghamton to Asia to Europe, and kind of getting to talk with these different teams of people, right? And that's always been the biggest thing for me. As long as I can work with different groups of people, get a new set of kids every year, or in that case, when I'm older, get a new set of older people to kind of mentor me throughout the years. I feel like I can grow very fast through that.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty clear that you sound like something you'd be definitely really great at. All right, so we're going to be moving on. ASU elections, they're coming up. What's everyone's talking about, everyone's gossiping about, everyone's stressing about, everyone's kind of scheming about. So let's talk about them a little bit. Nord, you've been through plenty of ASU elections. You know what's up. So if anyone's listening who's concerned about this is definitely the podcast to be tuning into for all your ASU election needs. Nortee, give the most useful advice you can give, specifically to someone running for an ASU e-board position for the first time. This is in no way to help me in particular, who happens to be running for an ASU e-board position for the first time. But for all the interns out there, all the first years, what are some tips you can give?
Yeah, so, here's the thing. With elections, you got to realize that a lot of the people interviewing you are just like you, right? When they first came in, they were just as nervous, or, they didn't really know what they were going to do when they got into the position. So I think the main thing to think about is, what are you going to do in that position? And that's the story you have to paint for the e-board. This is for any organization, not just ASU. If you're applying for it, talk about what initiatives you want to work on, right? What projects you want to work on, or what you want to change from the previous position. But yeah, so if you really want to get eBoard to like you or try to get you on to eBoard, then think about what platform you're really running for, right? What are you promoting? And if your ideas stand out, then that will trump whatever experience or connections, or bias you might think any eBoard has on you. So, like, say for me, when I ran for events coordinator and president, I mainly talked about what initiatives I had for both the subgroup community as well as the ASU internal community. And those initiatives go a long way, right? If you really sit down talk to your older mentors, right, your older peers, see what didn't work in the past, what worked, and then see what you can come up with that's uniquely your own. And I think that's the biggest advice I can give for anyone that's running.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's really, really great advice. Something to think about. If you had to, just to cover all bases, go through each position within the ASU e-board and give the most concise but most important quality that each position needs to have, starting with president.
Yeah. President would be open-mindedness. I think that's a easy no-brainer. And for vice president, I think that would be empathy.
Yeah.
That would be the word for vice president. And for financial vice president would be organization.
I think, yeah, I definitely agree.
For secretary, that would be outreach.
And like typing really fast.
Yeah, but no, actually, I scratched that. I would say listening, actually.
Listening, that's a good one.
Listening for secretary, unique perspective.
Yeah.
And what next do we got? We got event coordinators.
Yeah.
I would say for event coordinators, you need innovation. And for CAPE chairs, which are community and political engagement chairs, I would say for that, you need, that's a hard one. That's a lot of things because it's a relatively new position for anyone listening. It was only made maybe a year before I came here. And for CAPE chairs, I would say you need certain elegance in terms of how you express the different ideas that you're trying to bring out.
Right.
So political stuff, not easy for people to digest, right?
Definitely.
Breaking it down and knowing how to talk about it is the hardest thing about CAPE. And I would say, yeah, for publicity chairs, I would say for them, you need timing, creativeness.
Yeah.
Both those qualities are super important. You might be told to just do a graphic in one day. If you can do that, you're probably going to be an amazing pub chair.
Yeah.
Next up, we have digital marketing chair. Another new position.
Yeah.
So for digital marketing chair, I would say insight and kind of trend watching or trend setting, trend watching.
Being on top of things. For
yeah,
sure.
being on top of things, knowing the vibes.
Yeah, just being one of those Zoomers who know all the hip TikTok trends.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
I would say that's for DMC.
Yeah.
And I'm saving multimedia for last.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking if I'm missing anything here.
I want to say you're good.
Yeah, I also want to say I'm good. So I'll say for multimedia, the most important quality to have for multimedia is insight. And insight is something that's hard to come by, right? And people who do multimedia, everyone thinks is always behind the camera or, just whacking away at editing videos or audio. But really what it means is that you have a comprehensive view of what everyone in ASU does because you're always watching them and you get to interview them. You get to do things like this.
I do that sometimes.
So yeah, insight.
Yeah, for sure. How about interns? What do you say?
For interns, the best quality for interns is what we like to say potential or eagerness to learn, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the main thing, right? If you're an intern, you want to bring out your own ideas, but at the same time, you want to sit back and kind of digest what's going on in your board because everything is super fast, comes at you super quick.
I was so sure you're gonna say be able to drink a lot. No, that's really sound. Just advice things. Something to definitely think about if you're running for one of these positions. All right. What are your ideal qualities for ASU e-board members in general? Like, what are the things that no matter position, no matter the year, this is things that if you want to be a part of the ASU family, you have to have?
I would say 100%. You guys have probably heard this word before, collaboration. Knowing how to work with a team is something that any job, any internship,
absolutely.
Everything will ask you. So knowing how to work with a team, knowing how to work with different people, that's a super important quality to have. I would say the next quality to have is knowing how to reflect, right? Knowing to see what you're doing, what someone else is doing. If you can reflect on your own decisions and also, know why this was good, why this was bad, then you'll be a great e-board member anywhere. And finally, the last thing is something that's very hard for people is accountability, right? Holding yourself accountable. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the reflection. But knowing how to hold yourself accountable just means that you can always be honest with people. And honestly, it's something I'm like, you don't need it too much. Some people are great, honest people, but holding yourself accountable, I think, is more important than honesty, because if you're accountable, that means you're honest about the right things.
Yeah. No, I think it's really great. Yeah. All right, this is one song I came up with that's a little bit spicy, so I don't know. This may be a difficult question to answer, but if you were able to create an all-star e-board from all years of ASU, for every position, and you don't have to do all of them. Some of the positions are pretty new, of course, but if you could give your best shot at creating like the dream all-star ASU e-board.
Ooh, okay. All right, well, anyone listening, this is not personal whatsoever. You guys know me. No, you don't. And I would say for president, president is a tough one because it sets the tone for e-board. It's your team captain.
Yeah.
I would say for president, the best president I've seen so far, I would give to either Mike Messina or
you,
Brandon Na. He was a PAL president who was very internal e-board focused and also gave a lot of pride. When PAL says, who's got your back, PAL's got your back. Brandon Na was someone who basically embodied what that meant.
Yeah.
So I would say between those two, depending on what the e-board needs at the time, whether internal or external, Mike was probably one of the best external presidents understanding what's going on in the community. And for vice presidents, there's a lot. I would say I will give that to Winnie was an amazing president or vice president with me, and I would give that to her because she is generally an amazing person. She stuck with me through some hard times, and I think I would grease her if I didn't choose her. In this all-star draft. And for financial vice president, the best to do it, uncontested, Nina.
Yeah.
Nina is the GOAT. She created a lot of what we now know is like financial structure within ASU. A lot of it before was very hard to kind of comprehend for like almost all the subgroups. People didn't really know what they were doing. But after Nina, she kind of went crazy with it and created all these spreadsheets and everything that we still use to this day.
Big ups to Nina. Yeah, you're listening.
For secretary,
had some really great secretaries.
Yeah, we've had some very great secretaries. I would have to say that secretary so far would have to be Alora.
Yeah,
our
Alora.
Current secretary.
She's been doing some great work.
Honestly, I had Vanessa as a secretary too, also amazing secretary.
Yeah, definitely.
But Alora has encompassed what Vanessa did and also kind of the management skills that Nina had. So she's kind of like the all-in-one, super secretary.
Laura is always on top of everything. It's really, it's almost like, it doesn't seem like a real person almost. Not to say that in like a bad way, I mean that in the best way possible. Like what she's been able to do is like how organized and on top of everything she's been. It's really just something else. I've never seen it before.
Yeah, I've never seen her miss anything.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
what I mean? Like I think as human beings,
of course.
But here's my theory: Alora is an alien. She's just so good at doing her job that it's insane to me that she can do it like that. So
I'll have to look into
big shout out to Alora.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Next up, we have event coordinators.
Jeez.
Okay, there's a lot of great event coordinators, and I think the only thing I can think about is the events that they've created in terms of showing how well they are as event coordinators.
Had some bangers.
We've had some bangers. But my two top all-time events have been Barrio from PAL and also Tamasha from ASU.
Yeah, Tamasha's
So
great.
both of those two events, I'm not sure who ASU's event coordinators were, I guess, 2 years ago. But in my EC year, once I saw that event, Tamasha, I realized that this is how you're supposed to run an event. It was peak. That was the most amazing event.
This was pre-COVID or during?
Pre-COVID.
Gotcha.
So that was, oh my God. I wish everyone else could see what they did, but this year's Tamasha was also amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyone is at Bing, go watch Tamasha. Check out some other events outside the ASU Spirit too.
Of course. Big shout out to our friends over at ASU.
Yes. And I would say, yeah, Barrio is just amazing. I think that's more of a collaborative e-board effort, and that's what that makes it amazing. But in terms of pure ECs, maybe we'll keep it to ASU. I think the top ECs so far have got to be, I'll give it to Lucy, who many of you might know from acting. Quick drama plug for her. And I'll give it to James for their year. Navigating COVID.
That's been hard, yeah.
Yeah, while I was president, I yelled at them a lot, but they were amazing to figure it out by the end. It was hard. So yeah. What are we missing?
We haven't done pubs yet.
Yes. So pubs, a lot of great candidates as well. A lot of people don't know our past pubs, but they were very amazing. I would say for our pubs, we've had Emily, who's amazing as pub. We've had, who else have we had? We've had Jess and Phoebe right now.
They've been doing great work.
Yeah. We've had Alora, again, a banger, like just an alien, bro. Like she's creative too.
Insane.
But yeah, all this team.
Gotta pick one.
If I gotta pick one, it's gotta be Alora again.
The two-time out here. No way.
I mean, if anything,
back-to-back.
All of them are amazing, talented pubs.
Of course.
But I would say the main thing that sets Alora apart is she already had that organizational skill.
Yeah. And
the same thing she does in secretary, she did in pub.
Yeah, it's crazy how the skills they can apply to so many different positions. You can utilize them in such different ways, but no matter what, they're still useful.
Yeah. And
where we at right now? We did EC's pubs, Capes.
Ooh,
that's a new one. Might be hard.
Capes a newer one, but I do have some people in mind. I would say, what first comes to mind when I think of Cape is definitely Hong and Maisha's year, because that was the year that we've kind of got a glimpse of what it's like doing Cape outside the ASU sphere.
Yeah.
Right. And Hong, if you guys don't know Hong, he's in Chinoscope. You can look him up. He's a very sexy man. But what Hong did was he had very clear goals, which was bringing the international community to ASU. Right? ASU has historically been very Asian American, as many of you may know. But Hong really worked on the bridge of bringing international students to the Asian American community. And he works in Chinoscope because that's the goal of the organization as well. But he also worked in ASU because he had the international perspective. He just didn't have the Asian American perspective. So, yeah, Hong's clear-cut goals were just amazing that year.
All right. DMC Multimedia. Those are kind of... do you think you could try?
Yeah. Well, I will say that for DMC, we've had one.
Had a single.
Yes.
So big shouts to Kat.
Yeah, Kat, amazing.
By far, the greatest of all time DMC. Not even close.
Yeah.
Not even close.
Kat's been an amazing DMC. And I would also say some of the skills that Nina had in her early years resemble what DMC would do now, or similarly, like James and Nina also did a lot of stuff. And moving on to multimedia. Last one.
All right. How about let's just say not including me, just because I don't know if you're gonna say it, and I wouldn't be offended if you didn't. But let's just say, to remove any bias, not including myself, any historian, videographer, multimedia.
Ooh. All right. If it's historian, videographer, multimedia, anyone who's old knows there's one true GOAT, and that is Henry, who used to be the multimedia or historian for VSA. He set the tone. His video qualities are some of the most professional and amazing that we've ever seen in the ASU community. People really just passed around Henry like he was their mail or something.
I've heard stories. Just
Um,
like, Henry for sale. Yeah. He'll just put out some bangers for you for any event,
Yeah, but everyone knows. I mean, we were willing to pay money for him, and that's how everyone realized that they needed their own videographers, editing. Without him, right, it became a whole hole. All these new people came in because of the absence of Henry. But that goes to show how much he changed.
Something special for sure.
Yeah, ASU.
Yeah. All right, that's all we got for elections. Let's move on to the final two sections. We got some questions from anonymous askers or things I just made up. These are more for fun, but feel free to decline whichever ones you don't feel like you should. That being said, what is your rice purity score?
Ooh, well, my rice purity score is 50.
50.
50
All
straight.
right. Yeah,
very light. Very light.
Yeah, for sure. All right. This comes from an anonymous asker again. Who is your favorite intern?
Oh. See, here's the thing. A lot of people might not know, but majority of eBoard were at one point my interns. So
for sure.
When people say who's your favorite intern, I have to look at 3 years of me.
Hundreds of people, really.
Yeah. all these different. I also like when I think about ASU. I think about ASU as not just our organization, but ASU and the subgroups, right? Yeah. Including our community. So any intern from all those subgroups, all combined,
fair game.
All fair game. Which is why it is incredibly hard to find who my favorite all-time intern is. Yeah. I'm sure the ASU interns are shaking right now because they're like, "Oh, Nortee, you said I was your favorite intern."
Literally punching air as we speak.
But I do care about all of the interns very much equally, and I cannot say that I have a pure favorite intern until time passes and I'm able to reflect outside of the ASU spirit.
Yeah, for sure. That's a very eloquent cop-out by Nortee. Nah, that's totally good. I respect that. All right. So, also asked favorite presidents by someone who may or may not be the current president.
Yes. Favorite presidents, I already hinted at some during my All-Star draft.
Yeah.
But I will say for people I've raised, Vanessa has been one of my favorite presidents because I saw her full growth from intern all the way to president, and that's something back as I said back when I was an intern, I really wanted to see someone go from that not really knowing too many people to all of a sudden being ASU president. Mm-hmm. So Vanessa really embodied that journey for me, and so she's definitely up there.
For sure.
Favorites, sorry Van, but I gotta talk about who inspired me and the people who inspired me. As I said, Brandon and Mike. I would 100% give it to Mike though, because of how much he mentored me throughout my time in ASU. This was a random man my intern year who turned into one of the closest people for me during my EC years and my president year. Yeah. So, I'll give it to Mike.
If you're listening, Mike, it's a big shout out by Nortee. All right. So, next up, you now have access to a one-time use time machine. What are you doing with it? Where are you going and why?
Oh, one-time use time machine.
And I don't know if you want to just go with a classic Kill Baby Hitler, but wherever you want to take it.
I feel like that would definitely lead to some repercussions. Like there's probably someone worse than Hitler that would be born out of that.
Yeah, that'd be bad.
Yeah, you'd probably get like Mega Hitler or something. But I would say if I had to go back in time, in my own life, I would go back to my early high school days. If anything, if I could tell myself all the things I knew now about, making connections and also understanding how people think, I definitely would have had a more comprehensive understanding of everyone around me. And also, a lot of people have always asked me for advice, right? Yeah. And I feel like only now do I have those answers, or do I have a clue at how to help them figure out those answers. So kind of going back in time and giving myself a slap in the face would be what I would say.
Yeah, For me, I would go back in time and find the person who was about to invent League of Legends and kill him, and then just run really fast and tell my old self to buy a lot of Bitcoin. But I guess different answers for different people. All right, this one's a little bit more contemporary. World War III is announced. Right, America, Russia, China, all the world's powers. Right, we're all. Yeah. So you find out that you've been drafted as a frontline soldier for the U.S. Army, right?
Yeah.
What do you do? What's your first steps?
Well, a lot of you probably don't know this either, but I am a draft dodger.
Hey.
I have dual citizenship for Thailand and America, and I have been dodging my draft for Thailand. So what's one more? What's one more? Right. It doesn't change too much, so yeah, I'll skip out on the war and chill in my nice room and play League.
Oh yeah, what do you call it? Assuming like they show up at your door, do you be a conscientious objector, get thrown in jail? Do you like shoot yourself in the foot? Do you run to Canada?
I feel like if they came at my door, I would do what I do best and drink until I black out. And what would they do after that? After seeing my liver is torn in half?
Yeah, I wouldn't really want that on the front lines. No offense, of course. All right, that's very good. All right, last segment. We're gonna do some jokes. I'm a bit of kind of a joke guy, so I don't know how we feel about this, but I got some jokes here. Me and Nortee gonna start out. So, if you want to do the honors, and then can read off the first ever joke on State of the ASUnion first ever ASU podcast.
Sure.
You gonna like take them or?
Yeah.
Let's just do. You do one, I'll do one, and then until we're done.
Sure. Just recently, I got Just recently, I got hospitalized for my crippling SpongeBob addiction.
Crippling SpongeBob addiction.
They put me in the squid ward.
Oh, come on. that wasn't it. All right. How about this one? Some dudes are really out here saying shit like, my life is an anime. Like, which one, dude? You get to know bitches? That's lame. All right. No, bring it back.
I signed up for my company's 401k. Oh, what is it?
I signed up for my company's 401k, but...
but. I signed up for my company's 401k, but I don't think that I can run for that.
That's a pretty far distance, yeah. That's definitely nice. That's definitely. Listen, Nortee, I don't know if you've heard, but Walmart is offering free laptops to anyone that can outrun security.
Well, I definitely need a new laptop. So.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't stand vampires.
You can't stand vampires? Why?
They're such a pain in the neck.
Oh, come on now.
No.
That's lame. that is some B material. That's not good at all. Well, let me tell you, I don't mean to get political, Nortee, but I can't believe that fast food workers like McDonald's employees, they're demanding higher wages when they can't even get my damn order right. Like yesterday, I went to McDonald's. And I ordered a very simple order, 2 large fries, right? Instead, these idiots, they gave me like 100 small ones. What's up with that?
The classic
That's
joke.
A zinger.
Yes.
Always gets them. All right.
I can't say that I'm a fan of steampunk.
Yeah.
But I will say that it's the healthiest way to prepare punk.
That is horrible.
Wow.
Do you have one left after that? I think I got one left here.
That's it for me.
All right. I guess I'll finish it off then. The last joke to end off the first ever ASU podcast, and thank you to everyone for sticking around this far. The last joke. A Binghamton University School of Management marketing students, a Binghamton University School of Management accounting students, and a Binghamton University School of Management finance student all fight to the death. Who wins? Binghamton University.
Oh.
Yeah. That's all you school of management ones out there. Nah, we love you, but you're kind of cringe. All right. Well, that is the end of the episode. Thank you very much for listening. And Nortee, you want to talk us out of here?
Yeah. So thank you guys very much for having, or Tim too, for having me here. And quick plug again, TSO.
TSO.
Follow that. ASU. Keep in touch. And yeah, I mean, everything has been going great. Stay updated. Always remember that if this is the last thing I have to say on this podcast, is that invest your time into the next generation.
Yeah.
And give them spaces to talk and kind of just be the grandpa, be the dad, you know. You just heard us spit out a lot of dad jokes, but that's how it is in life, you know. Leave some crumbs for the next generation.
Yeah. All these young Zoomer kids out there. All right, thank you very much again for joining us, and you have a good rest of your day. Signing off.